Tēnā koe everyone, my name's Neen, I'm the Joy Ninja and welcome to my end of month wrap up and mini cash stuffing. Now if you watched my video earlier on in the week, you will know that I had money left over from the school holidays, which is pretty unheard of, but I have $50 here and I have a son who is desperately keen to start learning how to be a ninja. In his words, he wants to go to karate class. So I'm taking $30 out of there and I'm going to stuff it in my all new handy dandy challenge savings binder. I also, if you've watched any of my videos, you know I'm working on selling these as products, so I guess this is a little bit of a sneak peek. I will admit that the photography side of things has taken way longer than I anticipated, so I am not quite ready to go live yet. I've written all the listings, I've done all the costings, I have just got good photos to get. So here we are. I have created for my little ninja a mini savings challenge. This was created to help him with a term's worth of fees starting next year, and I've added a bit just in case he needs some uniform. So I thought, let's get started this side of Christmas. I am going to put $30 in there to get going. And look, you don't have to use these to save, but they are just really motivating, fun ways to get you to your goals. So I'm gonna really terribly colour in $30 worth of blobs, and we're on our way. A few people would ask me to talk about how I budget and how I lay out my my notebook. So let's just move that out of the way. Put this in frame. Right. So, as you can see, I don't cash stuff all of my income. At the top here, I get either $280 or $290 a week. It's actually $285, but because fives are so hard, I do $280 one week and $290 the next week. What this represents is all the money from my income that isn't spent on rent, utilities, insurance, gosh, internet. So everything that is paid by a direct debit or is set up as an AP, I leave that money in my account and I manage it digitally. I also manage some of my sinking funds digitally. So my doctor's bills, I have within that doctor's bills line, it's doctor, dentist and health supplements. So the vitamins I buy myself and the kids, any prescriptions we might need. I set aside a small amount of money, I think it's like $8.75 a week, to build up in my everyday account to be used for medical stuff. Here, the top in green, these lines are the things that I have week-to-week control over. And what I mean by that is that in my life, because I'm on quite a low fixed income, if I want to spend on the kids and there's nothing in my kids fund account, I will allow myself to pull from groceries. Or I might not be doing very much driving and fuel, so I could use that in takeaways. To me, once I've taken the cash out of my bank account and stuffed it in those envelopes, it's spent. I have accounted for it. So anything I want to do within here, that trade-off is absolutely fine to me. And importantly, I don't track every time I go grocery shopping or every time I fill up the car. I know that a lot of people do, but for me, I know I've tried doing that and I find it overwhelming, and it feels like another job, and it feels like pressure, especially if I miss noting down a payment and then I get myself, you know, all in a fluster of, oh, I forgot about this and I forgot about that. So I try and leave the digital money alone and just let it, I've already assigned it a job, I let it do its job, I leave it alone. The cash money, I have it physically in my hand, I spend it until it's gone. When it's gone, there's nothing else. And to be fair, having that money in cash makes me a lot more conservative about spending it. Then below in the sort of the page, the top 3 lines, emergency savings, Christmas and birthday, and kids savings, those are my 3 savings priorities. And they were grown out of a reflection that I did back when I started cash stuffing in April. I knew I wanted all of the things and that wasn't possible. So I just asked myself, what 3 things would make me feel more abundant? And I came up with knowing I can deal with an emergency, knowing that I have presents and the ability to do cakes and and make birthdays and Christmas special for my kids. And the 3rd thing was putting a little bit aside, even if it's a tiny amount, so that I'm in a position to be able to help my children when they're older, whether they want to go on an OE or go to university. I just want to be that parent that can resource my children just a little bit. Then there's 22 deposits. That's my one savings challenge. I don't budget anything there because it is just saving the change from what I've spent in the week. So it's not stressful, but it's just a way to assign every dollar a job. If it doesn't get spent up here, I have a job for it. Then below I have my sinking funds that I have been stuffing physically, and this is quite a new thing for me. I used to stuff these things online. What I was finding though is that when it's digital, I'm not sure how much I've got to spend on each of these things, and the pitfall or the temptation for me would be to overspend on one of these things, and then my budget's all out of whack, and then I feel down on myself that I'm not doing it correctly, and it's a really easy slippery slope to just go, oh, I'm rubbish, I suck at this, who cares, and abandon the entire thing. I don't want to do that. So I have started stuffing these physically, and for now I think that's working for me really well. So as you can see, this is just July and through to August, and here is my at the end of 4 months. So as I said, I started in April, so at the end of 4 months all I've done is totted up what I physically had in each of the envelopes. And I'm going to show you now the spreadsheet that I have online. Right, so I will link to a video I did that talks more in depth about how I've organised my online budget. And I will say before I go any further, if you haven't done the exercise of sitting down and working out a weekly or fortnightly or monthly budget based on what you're paid, go do that. You really need to know your numbers, and that's not to beat yourself up about. It's because, one, you need to know that the money coming in is enough to pay for everything you're spending, so you need to know you're not going backwards. 2, it can be really revealing. This is not an exercise to beat yourself up. This is an exercise to become curious about how you're living your life now, and ask yourself, is that lifestyle that I'm living creating abundance for me? Do I feel financial freedom? Do I have goals? Am I moving towards those financial goals? It doesn't matter where you are on your journey, and it doesn't matter how much money you get. I think the concept of abundance is about knowing that the money that you're receiving, you're putting to the best use and it's reflecting your own goals, aspirations, your values, your morals. It's not about anyone else and what they do. So, I want to be very careful and invite you to look at lots of different people around how they organise their budget. There's budgeting services that I can link below in your area that will sit down with you for free and work through your budget, especially if you are behind on your bills, or you have debt and you feel like your finances are out of control. I want to encourage you to do that. I have been there, and it was very, very helpful. And I've sat down with my bank statements and done it independently on my own, and it was very laborious, but it was helpful. It just helped me understand where my money really was going as opposed to where I thought it was going in my head. A classic example is everyone thinks they spend less on groceries than they actually do, because they think about that one big shop and they don't think about the 3 times they popped in on the way home from work to grab, like one thing, like a can of tomatoes, and walked out with $40 worth of snacks. It happens. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just be curious, be aware, okay? So here we have my net worth calculation. I'm not super keen to share all of my numbers with you. I'm new at this online thing. I want to protect my privacy, and especially that of my children. So for that reason, what I'm sharing with you here doesn't include things like retirement and the value of my car. Those things are generally considered when you're looking at your net worth calculation. What this shows you is the total of my top 3 savings priorities: emergency savings, Christmas and birthday, and kids savings. It shows you the value of the 22 deposits. That's just the change I've been saving. And I've also included how much cash I have on hand in my cash envelopes, things like groceries and fuel, my sinking fund cash envelopes, the things at the bottom that I showed you in peach: beauty, clothing, hobbies, that kind of thing. And then it shows you my bank, the total of my bank balances online. Now, I run a savings account for my emergency savings, a separate savings account, an everyday account. That's the one that I can take money out of to do cash stuffing. It also pays some of my bills. And I run a pure bills account, and that's where my income goes into. It's also where my top priority bills come out of, like my rent. I never want to be behind on rent. That's one of those rules I've created for myself. It works for me. Feeling abundant is knowing the roof over my head is paid for, the power is paid for, and we've got food on the table. So those 3 things really drive my decision making around having the income come into a bills account that I can't access on my EFTPOS card. So I actually have to be mindful and transfer money across every week. And the action of doing that slows me down and allows me to, I think for me, make good choices about where my money's going. Anyway, onward. You can see in April, I don't have a lot of figures here because I had just started. I didn't have anything in emergency savings. I did have a term deposit. That's why it's not included here. It is included, or part of it is included later. I know that skews the figures a bit, but overall, as a trend, we can see in the 4 months I've saved a bit of money. And then a month after that, that's why the big leap is that I have topped up my emergency savings with some money from a term deposit, most of which got reinvested, some of which, this was a rough month for me in terms of spending. I had a big car bill which was $525. I had a family emergency, which meant that I had to book flights in a rental car kind of quite last minute. I also bought lots of clothes for the kids, and I had business setup expenses. So what I can tell you here is that this was my net worth in April. This is June and this is July. So over the last month I have added $218 or 13% to this total last month. I hope that makes sense. I put down in yellow on the side here some savings goals. So when way back in April, when I thought about my top 3 savings priorities, I kind of set myself a bit of a goal about what I thought I could save per month. I thought about $40 a month into my emergency savings was realistic, and I'm managing to do that. I'm tracking that okay. For Christmas and birthdays, well, I know when that is, so I have a date. I just worked backwards. I worked out how many weeks I had to save that money. I initially had a target of $700, so I just got the calculator out, worked out how much per week that was, and that was my goal, to stuff that. The reality is that some weeks I'm able to stuff more and some weeks less, but overall I'm really happy that I'm tracking in the right direction, let's just say. And then kids' long-term savings, I thought $5 a week or $20 a month was about what I could save. That is my wrap-up for the end of July. But I'll be back on Wednesday with another cash stuffing. So until then, kia pai, hoki tora, have a good day.